The church was silent when the red wine ran down the white dress. Helena held the empty glass, a satisfied smile on her face. "You always wanted to outshine me," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. Laughter echoed among the guests. Beatrice held her daughter Sophia in her arms, feeling tears burn her eyes. But not from humiliation. It was from the confirmation that nothing had changed between them. Father Antonio raised his hand, asking for silence. His expression was serious, almost solemn. "Before we proceed with the ceremony, I need to read something important." He took a yellowed envelope from the pocket of his cassock. Beatrice immediately recognized her mother's handwriting. Her heart raced. Helena turned pale. She knew what that was as much as Beatrice did. Their mother had died 6 months earlier, victim of aggressive cancer. In the last weeks of her life, she asked Father Antonio to keep a letter and read it publicly at her granddaughter's baptism. Beatrice didn't know the content, only that it existed. The priest began to read. His firm voice cut through the heavy air of the church. Their mother wrote about how she had raised 2 daughters, but only one of them visited during her illness. How Helena promised to be present but never showed up. How she borrowed money for a supposed emergency and used it for plastic surgery. How she lied to the entire family saying that Beatrice had forbidden her from seeing their mother in the hospital, when in reality, she never answered her calls because she was too busy with parties. But that wasn't all. The letter revealed that the house where Helena lived, the one she claimed to have bought with her own effort, had been a gift from their mother. A gift given in secret, at Beatrice's expense, because their mother sold the jewelry that was supposed to be Beatrice's inheritance. Helena always knew this, and let everyone believe she was more successful than her sister. The silence in the church was absolute. Their father, sitting in the first row, had a red face from anger. He knew nothing about this. Aunt Margaret, their mother's sister, stood up and stared at Helena with contempt. She had always suspected something was wrong, but never had proof. Helena tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. Tears ran down her perfectly made-up face. She looked around, seeking support, but found only looks of disapproval. Her husband Daniel was visibly embarrassed, not knowing where to hide his face. The priest continued. The letter said more. Their mother revealed that Helena had spread rumors about Beatrice in the family, saying she was pregnant with a married man, trying to destroy her relationship with her fiancé Ricardo. There were months of fights and distrust until the truth came out by chance, when a distant cousin mentioned that Helena was the source of all those stories. But the real blow came in the last part of the letter. Their mother wrote that she had changed her will a week before dying. The house she had promised to leave to Helena would be sold, and all the money would go to an education fund for Sophia, Beatrice's daughter. Helena would inherit nothing but the emotional debts she had accumulated. When the priest finished reading, Helena was already on her feet, walking quickly toward the exit. Daniel ran after her, but she pushed him away. The church door slammed hard. Some guests murmured among themselves. Others just looked at Beatrice with pity or solidarity. Her father approached her, put his arm around her and kissed Sophia's forehead. "Your mother always knew how to read people better than any of us," he said quietly. Beatrice realized then that he was devastated, not only by the loss of his wife, but by discovering that one of his daughters was capable of such cruelty. The ceremony continued, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Some guests left discreetly, others stayed out of respect. When it was time for photos, the wine-stained dress became almost a symbol. Ricardo suggested that she change, but she refused. She wanted those stains to be recorded, a reminder of who her sister really was. In the following weeks, Helena didn't answer any calls. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Daniel showed up at her father's house once, apologizing and saying that Helena was in deep depression. He revealed that she had hidden from him the true origin of the house money, and that now they would have to move, because they couldn't afford to rent a smaller apartment with the standard of living she insisted on maintaining. Aunt Margaret was the one who brought the most surprising news. She investigated on her own and discovered that Helena owed money to several family members, always with made-up stories about medical emergencies or car problems. No one had shared this before because she asked for secrecy, saying she was ashamed. The total debt amounted to an absurd amount. Margaret arrived at Beatrice's house on a Tuesday afternoon, her face showing a mixture of anger and disappointment. She sat at the kitchen table and pulled out a small notebook where she had written down everything she had discovered. I talked to your cousin Linda, Margaret began, flipping through the pages. Helena borrowed $5,000 from her 2 years ago, saying she needed surgery for a supposed tumor. Linda never told anyone because Helena begged her to keep it secret, said she didn't want to worry the family. Beatrice felt her stomach turn. And there was no tumor. Of course not, Margaret continued. I also talked to Uncle George. $3,000 for a supposed car accident that never happened. To Aunt Patricia, $2,000 for dental treatment. To Cousin Mark, $4,000 for supposed lawyer fees. The list goes on and on. Ricardo, who was listening from the living room doorway, approached the table. How much in total? More than $30,000, Margaret replied, her voice trembling with indignation. And that's just what I managed to confirm. There are probably more people she deceived. Beatrice felt a wave of nausea. She had known her sister was manipulative, but the extent of her lies was shocking. Why didn't anyone say anything before? Because Helena was smart, Margaret explained. She asked each person individually, always with a touching story, always begging for secrecy. She knew that if people compared notes, they would discover the truth. In the days that followed, the phone at the family home didn't stop ringing. Relatives who had heard about what happened at the baptism began calling, some to offer support, others to share their own stories about Helena. Each conversation revealed another layer of deception. Cousin Julia called to say that Helena had tried to convince her that Beatrice was having an affair and that Sophia wasn't really Ricardo's daughter. Uncle Thomas revealed that Helena had told him that Beatrice was stealing money from their sick mother. Aunt Claire confessed that Helena had spread rumors that Beatrice was using drugs. Each revelation was a blow. Beatrice began to realize that her sister's campaign against her had been systematic and cruel, spanning years. It wasn't just sibling rivalry. It was something much darker. Father Antonio visited Beatrice a week after the baptism. He brought with him another envelope, this one sealed with wax. Your mother left this for you, he said, handing her the envelope. She asked me to give it to you after I read the public letter. Beatrice opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a letter written in her mother's delicate handwriting, dated 3 days before her death. My dear Beatrice, the letter began. If you are reading this, it means Father Antonio has already read the public letter at Sophia's baptism. I know this must have been difficult for you, but it was necessary. I need you to understand why I did what I did. The letter continued for several pages. Her mother explained that she had known about Helena's behavior for years. She had tried to intervene, tried to get Helena to seek help, but nothing worked. Helena always found a way to manipulate the situation, to turn herself into the victim. I made a mistake, her mother wrote. I gave Helena the house hoping it would make her happy, hoping she would finally feel successful and stop competing with you. But I only made things worse. I fed her sense of entitlement. I enabled her lies. Her mother explained that the decision to change the will wasn't revenge. It was an attempt to protect Beatrice and Sophia from Helena's toxicity. I know my death will be hard for both of you, the letter said. But I also know that Helena will try to use it to her advantage. She will try to make herself the grieving daughter, the victim. The public letter is my way of ensuring that the truth is known. The letter ended with words that made Beatrice cry. You were always the daughter who loved me for who I was, not for what I could give you. You were the one who held my hand when I was afraid. You were the one who stayed. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Take care of Sophia. Give her the love and honesty that I tried to give you. And don't waste time trying to save Helena. Some people don't want to be saved. Ricardo found Beatrice in the bedroom, the letter in her hands, tears streaming down her face. He sat beside her and held her without saying anything. Sophia was sleeping in her crib, oblivious to the family drama unfolding around her. 3 months after the baptism, a message arrived from an unknown number. Beatrice's phone vibrated on the kitchen counter while she was making dinner. She picked it up and read, You won. I hope you're happy. She knew immediately it was Helena. For a moment, she considered responding. She thought about all the things she could say, all the questions she could ask. But in the end, she simply blocked the number. There was nothing to say. There had never been a competition to win. The months turned into years. Sophia grew up without knowing her aunt. She was a happy child, surrounded by love from her parents, grandfather, and extended family. Aunt Margaret became a constant presence in their lives, often joking that she had been promoted to honorary grandmother. When Sophia was 5, she found the baptism photos in a drawer. She pulled out the one showing Beatrice in the wine-stained dress, holding her as a baby. "Mommy, why is your dress dirty?" she asked. Beatrice sat down with her daughter and told her the truth in simple terms. She explained that she had an aunt named Helena, but that they didn't see each other anymore because Helena had made some bad choices. She showed her the photo and explained what had happened that day. Sophia looked at the photo for a long time. Then she said something that made Beatrice smile through tears. "You looked beautiful even dirty, Mommy." Beatrice's father never spoke Helena's name again. It was as if she had ceased to exist for him. He kept a photo of her as a child in his wallet, but that was all that remained of his older daughter. When people asked if he had children, he would respond without hesitation, "1. I have one daughter and a beautiful granddaughter." The house that had been given to Helena was sold as their mother had stipulated in the new will. The money went into an education fund for Sophia. Beatrice watched as the amount grew over the years, invested wisely by the lawyer who managed the estate. Every time she signed a check from that fund to pay for Sophia's school, she thought about her mother's wisdom. The school Sophia attended was one of the best in the region. She excelled in her studies, showing a natural intelligence and curiosity. Her teachers often commented on how well-adjusted she was, how kind to other children. Beatrice knew her mother would have been proud. Through the years, occasional news about Helena filtered back through mutual acquaintances. She had moved far away and was living under Daniel's maiden surname. The marriage hadn't survived the weight of her lies. Daniel had remade his life with someone else, and even visited Beatrice's father a few times, maintaining a cordial relationship. One of these visits happened when Sophia was 7. Daniel arrived unannounced one Saturday morning, looking older and tired. Beatrice's father invited him in for coffee. "I want to apologize," Daniel said, sitting at the kitchen table. "I should have seen the signs. I should have questioned things more." Beatrice's father shook his head. "Helena was skilled at deception. She fooled all of us at some point. She's working in retail now," Daniel continued, "living in a small apartment. I saw her once by accident about 6 months ago. She looked different, older, defeated." "Did she say anything?" Beatrice's father asked. "She pretended not to see me," Daniel replied. "Just turned and walked away. I think she's ashamed. Or maybe she just doesn't care anymore. I honestly don't know." Beatrice, who had been listening from the next room, felt a pang of something she couldn't quite identify. It wasn't pity exactly. It wasn't satisfaction either. It was more like a deep sadness for what could have been but never was. The wine-stained dress remained in the back of the closet for years. Beatrice couldn't bring herself to throw it away, but she also couldn't look at it without feeling a complex mixture of emotions. It represented betrayal, but also truth. Humiliation, but also vindication. When Sophia was 12, she found the dress while looking for something else in the closet. She pulled it out carefully, examining the dark stains that had set permanently into the white fabric. "Mom, is this the dress from my baptism?" Beatrice nodded. "Yes, I kept it." "Can I use it for a school project?" Sophia asked. "We're supposed to bring something that represents an important family story." Beatrice hesitated for only a moment before agreeing. She watched as Sophia carefully folded the dress and placed it in a box. A week later, she attended the school presentation where Sophia stood in front of her class and told the story of her baptism. She explained about the grandmother she never knew, about the letter that revealed the truth, about the aunt who disappeared. The teacher called Beatrice afterward. "That was a powerful presentation," she said. "Sophia has a real gift for storytelling, and the maturity with which she handled such a complex family situation was remarkable." Sophia got the highest grade in the class. She brought the dress home and helped Beatrice carefully put it back in the closet. "I'm glad you kept it," Sophia said. "It's an important part of our story." Father Antonio retired when Sophia was 13. Before he left the parish, he asked to speak with Beatrice one last time. They met at the church on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, sitting in the same pews where the baptism had taken place years earlier. "Your mother was a remarkable woman," Father Antonio said. She knew exactly what was going to happen that day. She predicted it all. She knew Helena would do something, Beatrice replied. More than that, the priest said. She told me, and I remember her exact words. Helena won't be able to help herself. She'll try to ruin Beatrice's moment of happiness. And when she does, I want the truth to be there waiting for her. Your mother spent her last days planning that moment. Why didn't she confront Helena while she was alive? She tried, Father Antonio explained. Many times. But Helena was beyond reaching. Your mother realized that the only way to protect you was to expose the truth in a way that Helena couldn't manipulate or deny. A public revelation, witnessed by the entire family. She said in her private letter that it wasn't punishment. Beatrice said softly. It wasn't, Father Antonio confirmed. She told me she wasn't punishing Helena. She was liberating you. She wanted you to stop trying to fix a relationship that was broken beyond repair. She wanted you to be free to live your life without constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering what Helena would do next. Beatrice sat in silence, absorbing these words. The afternoon light filtered through the stained glass windows, casting colored patterns on the floor. Your mother also said something else, Father Antonio continued. She said that someday you would understand that love sometimes means letting go, that you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved, and that the kindest thing you can do is to stop enabling their destruction and start protecting yourself and those you love. When Sophia was 15, she asked about Helena for the first time in years. They were driving home from school when she brought it up. Do you ever wonder about Aunt Helena? Where she is? What she's doing? Sometimes, Beatrice admitted, but not as much as I used to. Do you think she ever regrets what she did? Beatrice thought carefully before answering. I don't know. I'd like to think she does. But regret requires self-awareness, and Helena never seemed capable of that. She always saw herself as the victim, never the villain. That must be a sad way to live, Sophia observed. It is, Beatrice agreed. But it was her choice. Grandma tried to help her. Dad tried. I tried. At some point, you have to accept that people make their own choices, and you can't force them to change. They drove in silence for a while. Then Sophia said, I'm glad I have you as my mom, and that I knew Grandma, even if it was just for a little while. Her letter protected us, didn't it? Yes, Beatrice replied. It did. The education fund that Beatrice's mother had set up continued to grow. By the time Sophia was ready for college, there was enough to pay for the best universities. Beatrice watched her daughter fill out applications, write essays, dream about her future. None of it would have been possible without her mother's final act of love and justice. Aunt Margaret remained a central figure in their lives. She had taken it upon herself to be the keeper of family history, the one who made sure Sophia knew where she came from. She told stories about Beatrice's mother, about the kind of woman she had been, about her strength and wisdom. One evening, when Sophia was 16, Margaret brought out old family photo albums. They sat together looking at pictures spanning decades. There were photos of Beatrice and Helena as children, looking happy and carefree. It was hard to reconcile those innocent faces with what had happened later. They were so close when they were young, Margaret said sadly. Your mother and I used to watch them play together and think they would always be best friends. What changed? Sophia asked. Margaret thought for a moment. I don't think it was one thing. It was gradual. Helena always had a competitive streak, always needed to be the best, the prettiest, the most successful. And when she felt like she wasn't, she would lash out. Your grandmother tried to balance it, tried to make sure both girls felt loved and valued. But nothing was ever enough for Helena. That sounds exhausting, Sophia said. It was, Margaret agreed. For everyone. Your mother spent years trying to win Helena's approval, trying to make peace. It took your grandmother's letter for her to finally realize that it was never going to happen. When Beatrice's father turned 70, they threw him a party. Family and friends gathered to celebrate. The absence of Helena was felt, but not mentioned. It had become the new normal. A family restructured around her absence. During the party, an old family friend approached Beatrice. I heard about what happened with your sister, the woman said quietly. I'm sorry. It must have been difficult. It was, Beatrice replied. But we're okay now. We've moved on. Your mother would be proud of you, the woman said. of how you've handled everything, of the life you've built. Later that night, after the guests had left, Beatrice's father pulled her aside. I want you to know something, he said. I failed Helena. I see that now. I was so busy working, providing, that I didn't see what was happening. I didn't see the person she was becoming. Dad, it wasn't your fault. Maybe not entirely, he said, but I enabled her. I let your mother handle everything, and when your mother tried to talk to me about Helena's behavior, I dismissed it. I thought she was exaggerating. I was wrong. You loved her, Beatrice said gently. You loved both of us. I did, he agreed. I still do, but love isn't always enough. Your mother understood that. She knew when to hold on and when to let go. I'm still learning that lesson. The years continued to pass. Sophia graduated high school with honors, got accepted into her first-choice university. The education fund her grandmother had left made it all possible. On the day they dropped Sophia off at college, Beatrice stood in the dorm room and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Ricardo put his arm around her. Your mother would be so proud. I know, Beatrice replied, tears in her eyes. I wish she could be here to see this. In a way, she is, Ricardo said, gesturing to the room, to Sophia, to everything her education fund had made possible. All of this is because of her. That night, alone in the hotel room, Beatrice pulled out her phone and looked at old photos. There was one of her mother holding baby Sophia, taken just weeks before her diagnosis. Her mother's smile was genuine, full of love and hope. Beatrice saved the photo as her phone's background. She thought about the letter that had been read at Sophia's baptism, about the private letter her mother had left for her, about all the ways her mother had protected her even after death. It hadn't been revenge. It had been love, fierce, protective, uncompromising love. The wine-stained dress still hung in the closet at home. Beatrice had decided to keep it permanently. It had become more than just a reminder of that day. It was a symbol of truth, of justice, of the moment everything changed. It represented the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Sophia called home regularly from college. She was thriving, making friends, excelling in her studies. She talked about her classes, her professors, her plans for the future. She never asked about Helena. That part of the family history had been acknowledged, processed, and filed away. One day, during Sophia's sophomore year, Beatrice received a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Silence on the other end. Then, a voice she hadn't heard in years. Beatrice. It was Helena. Beatrice's heart raced. She walked to the window, looking out at the street, trying to steady her breathing. What do you want, Helena? More silence. Then, I just wanted to hear your voice. After all these years, that's what you have to say? I know I don't deserve forgiveness, Helena said, her voice thick with emotion. I know what I did was unforgivable. I just wanted you to know that I think about you, about Sophia, about what I lost. Beatrice closed her eyes. Why are you calling now? I'm sick, Helena said simply. Nothing like what Mom had, but it made me think about my life, about my choices, about all the bridges I burned. I'm sorry you're sick, Beatrice said, and she meant it. Despite everything, she didn't wish suffering on her sister. I don't expect anything from you, Helena continued. I don't expect forgiveness or reconciliation. I just wanted you to know that you were right, about everything, and I was wrong, about everything. Beatrice felt tears on her cheeks. Thank you for saying that. How is Sophia? She's wonderful. She's in college now, studying psychology. A laugh, bitter and sad. Of course she is. She probably has enough material from our family to write a thesis. Helena, I should go, Helena interrupted. I just wanted to call, to say what I needed to say. Goodbye, Beatrice. The line went dead before Beatrice could respond. She stood there holding the phone, feeling a complex mixture of emotions she couldn't quite name. After all these years, Helena had finally acknowledged the truth, but it didn't change anything. It couldn't change the past. It couldn't rebuild what had been destroyed. Beatrice called Ricardo at work. Helena just called me. What did she want? To apologize, I think. To acknowledge what she did. She said she's sick. How do you feel? I don't know, Beatrice admitted. Sad, relieved, empty. All of it at once. That night, she pulled out the private letter her mother had written. She read it again, focusing on the last paragraph. Don't waste time trying to save Helena. Some people don't want to be saved. Her mother had been right. Helena had spent years destroying relationships, burning bridges, creating chaos. And now, at the end, she was alone with her regrets. It was tragic, but it was also a consequence of her choices. Beatrice never heard from Helena again. She didn't try to call back, didn't try to reach out. The conversation had brought closure of a sort, but it hadn't changed the fundamental reality. They were sisters by blood, but strangers in every way that mattered. Sophia came home for winter break. She was excited, full of stories about her classes and friends. Beatrice watched her daughter and felt a profound sense of peace. Despite all the family drama, despite Helena's attempts to destroy her happiness, she had built a good life. She had a wonderful daughter, a loving husband, a close relationship with her father and extended family. On Christmas Eve, they gathered at Beatrice's father's house. Aunt Margarethe was there, along with various cousins, aunts, and uncles. They shared a meal, exchanged gifts, told stories. Helena's absence was no longer a gaping wound. It was simply a fact, acknowledged but not dwelt upon. After dinner, Beatrice's father raised his glass. "I want to make a toast," he said, "to family. Not just the family we're born into, but the family we choose. The people who stand by us, who love us, who tell us the truth even when it's hard. To my daughter Beatrice, who has shown more grace and strength than I could have imagined. To my granddaughter Sophia, who represents the best of all of us. And to my late wife, who even in death continues to guide and protect us." Everyone raised their glasses. Beatrice felt tears in her eyes but didn't try to hide them. These were good tears, healing tears. Later that night, Sophia found Beatrice alone in the kitchen. "Are you okay, Mom?" "I'm more than okay," Beatrice replied. "I'm happy. I'm glad," Sophia said, hugging her mother. "You deserve to be happy." And she was. The wine-stained dress hanging in her closet was a reminder of the worst day that had turned into a turning point. The day her mother's final act of love had freed her from years of manipulation and lies. The day she had stopped trying to save someone who didn't want to be saved and started building the life she deserved. Years later, when people asked Beatrice about her sister, she would simply say they had gone their separate ways. She didn't elaborate, didn't explain. It wasn't that she was hiding anything. It was just that Helena's story was no longer part of hers. They had diverged, and that was okay. The education fund continued to support Sophia through graduate school. She did indeed study psychology, and her senior thesis explored family dynamics and the psychology of manipulation. Beatrice read it with pride, recognizing elements of their own family story woven throughout, though Sophia was careful to change identifying details. When Sophia graduated with her doctorate, the entire family attended the ceremony. Beatrice sat between Ricardo and her father, watching her daughter cross the stage to receive her diploma. She thought about her mother, about how none of this would have been possible without her final act of courage and wisdom. That evening, at the celebration dinner, Sophia stood to make a speech. "I want to thank my family," she said, "especially my mom, who taught me the difference between loyalty and enabling, who showed me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set boundaries and walk away. And my grandmother, who I barely knew but who gave me the greatest gift, the truth." The table erupted in applause. Beatrice wiped tears from her eyes. Her father squeezed her hand. Aunt Margarethe beamed with pride. Later, alone with Ricardo, Beatrice reflected on everything that had happened. "Do you think Helena knows?" she asked. "About Sophia? About everything she's accomplished?" "I don't know," Ricardo replied. "Does it matter?" Beatrice thought about it. "No," she finally said. "It doesn't. This isn't about Helena. It never was. It was about us. About building a life based on truth and love instead of manipulation and lies." The wine-stained dress remained in the closet, a silent witness to the day everything changed. Beatrice never wore it again, but she never got rid of it either. It was part of her story, part of Sophia's story, part of the complex tapestry of their family history. Sometimes truth is messy. Sometimes justice looks like a wine-stained dress and a letter read in a crowded church. Sometimes love means letting go of people who refuse to change. And sometimes the greatest gift a mother can give her daughter is the courage to face the truth and the strength to build a life free from toxic relationships. Beatrice had learned all of this on that day in the church, with wine running down her white dress and her infant daughter in her arms. The day her mother, even in death, had given her permission to stop fighting a battle she could never win. The day she had been freed to live her own life, on her own terms, surrounded by people who truly loved her. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.